What's up everybody, I'm the Mangoose, you were awesome. You guys asked me to make Grim.exe my next project for improvement, so I started taking him in against the AIs to practice. While messing around with him, I started to notice some really strange interactions, like the Templar aspect giving you shields when you basic attack, or all of your basic attacks applying the burn from Eldritch Flame. I'm going to go through today and point out some of the stranger things I've found with Grimm. Not saying this stuff is useful knowledge that will give you the edge in combat, just saying it's kind of weird. Like the video if you enjoy it, sub for more third-person MOBA content, but for now, let's get into it. To start with, Grimm is very different in Fault than he was in Paragon. He operates on a recharging energy system instead of using mana. His E that used to toggle in order to apply a slow, now toggles between 3 different stances. Yellow gives you energy back when you basic attack, red consumes energy to make your basic attacks grant stacking attack speed, and blue consumes energy to increase your basic attack range. His old displacement blast also acts differently based on what stance you're in. Yellow is the good old arcing displacement bomb, red is a long range straight line blast that slows enemies, blue fires a high damage blast that pierces through enemies and shreds energy armor. He still has his bubble to block abilities, and if you do block something, you get energy back and cooldown on your blast lowered. He also has a passive that gives you energy damage on a target. This stacks up to 3, and hitting that target again will detonate the stacks to deal a burst of damage. Let's start with the most interesting thing I found. I thought that maybe, since Grimm uses a resource to basic attack in red and blue mode, that those basic attacks could apply on hit effects. I was wrong. All of his basic attacks, no matter what mode you're in, apply ability on hit effects. Items like Matter Limiter state that, on damage from abilities, apply a 30% slow to targets for 2 seconds. I guess Grimm's passive counts as damage from an ability, because you can slow people on every hit. The same goes with Eldritch Flame that deals 0.83% of a target's max health as damage over 3 seconds. You can apply that burn with every Grimm basic attack. You can also apply the Trauma is the heal reduction, from Cursed Remnant, but there are already items that apply Trauma on basic attack, so that one isn't quite as exciting. I don't know how useful this is. Matter Limiter giving you a self-peel seems pretty baller, and the energy power that comes with it is nice. Eldritch Flame seems like a bit of a waste though, since you don't stack that dot, you just refresh the duration with every hit. It's still pretty cool. After I learned about this craziness, I wanted to see if his basic attacks could proc items like Arcane Surge. There's a few items like this in Fault where landing an ability gives you a boost to your next basic attack, kind of like Stinger Boost did from old school Paragon. I tested Arcane Surge, Biological Infuser, and Stem Gauntlet, but none of them allow your basic attacks to proc the item passive. You still have to land an ability like Blast to get the extra damage on your next basic attack. Thank God for that, because Grimm would be stupid overpowered if you're dealing like a ton of extra damage every 1.5 seconds just from hitting basics. There's one item in game that applies armor shred on both basic and ability hit, and it's called Demon Sword. On basic or ability hit, you shred 5% of a hero's armor, stacking up to 5. Once it full stacks, you get 15% lifesteal against that target. I wanted to see if Grimm could double dip with a basic attack counting as both a basic and an ability to give you 2 stacks in one hit. Sadly, no. You have to put 5 hits on the target to get the full shred and the lifesteal. Another one that thankfully doesn't work is Apocalyptic Epitome, which gives you 20% extra ability damage on targets below 40% health. This does not work with Grimm's basics. Works with his ultimate though, so keep that in mind. I also tested some of the aspects on Grimm. The white aspect, Templar, states that 25% of mana spent becomes a shield for 3 seconds. Since Grimm consumes energy when he basic attacks in red or blue mode, he does indeed get a shield when basic attacking in those stances. Is that worth using a white aspect? Probably not, but it's still cool. The blue queen aspect gives you ability vamp, which is just lifesteal on abilities. This does work with all modes of Grimm's basic attacks. The healing is pretty negligible, but it also applies to his blasts, and it's nice to have that extra energy power whenever you're building a blue Grimm. You get a stacking energy power buff out of queen. The blue Warlock aspect states that every 4 abilities deal 16% bonus damage. This does not work with Grimm's basic attacks. The blue Magician aspect allows you to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate when you hit with abilities, but this also does not work with any mode on Grimm. I wanted to test the starter items to see which one was better, but I don't think one is objectively better than the other. It really just comes down to playstyle. You can go with the Titan's Bow that gives you 10 physical power and 75 health with 2 unique passives. One gives you 3% lifesteal, and the other gives you 10 additional damage against minions. The other option is Titan's Spellbook, normally taken by mages. This gives you 20 energy power and 75 health with a unique passive that gives you mana regen that doubles when you hit a hero. This passive is a bit useless. I tested mana regen items on Grimm, and they don't seem to affect his energy regen. The second passive gives you the same extra 10 damage to minions. With the physical power from Titan's Bow, you hit the melee minions for 73 physical and 4 energy damage, so that's 77 total. With the Spellbook, you hit for 63 physical damage and 9 energy damage, so 72 damage total. The bow gives you 2 health back per hit, while the Spellbook gives you none. However, if you take the Queen aspect, you get that ability vamp. If you combine Queen with Spellbook, you'll be getting 1 health back per basic. You'll also get a burst of 5 health when you proc your passive, but you can't really rely on that when farming. I also tested the Blue Mode Blast, which is the highest damage blast and often used to poke. It deals 67 damage with the bow equipped and 79 damage with the book equipped. I was a little surprised that the blast does less damage than a basic attack because it seems this always chunks me, but of course I'm not really building anything in this test other than the starter items. I'm sure if you went full Blue Grimm, that sucker would pack a punch, but you wouldn't have as much follow-up. And that's it for my Grimm tests. I know some of this info was fairly useless, but I still found it interesting, and I hope you did as well. Maybe somebody could use this information to make a Templar Queen Grimm build that with like Eldritch Flame that'll rock the meta, but that person certainly will not be me. I do think I may build Matter Limiter on him because that slow on basic attacks is just too good to pass up. In any case, I look forward to improving my carry play with Grimm in the future, but for now, this is the Mangoose signing off. Goodbye, food. Mangoose! Special shout out to channel members Foolish Bloodhunter, Jelly Knees, Meow Mix for Men, Stunt, Ferrith, and Raven.